We're talking to Chip Roy about the Islamification of Texas and the United States. What's going to be done? A new attitude from Governor Greg Abbott yesterday, and a new proclamation that came out and said enough is enough on CAIR and the Muslim Brotherhood. We're going to deem them terrorist organizations. We were just talking about what's happening with the Ten Commandments. And before we switch here, and one more thing on this Muslim thing in schools. You know, we can't have the Ten Commandments, Chip. However, at Liberty High School in the Frisco ISD in Texas, they now have prayer rooms for Islamic prayers. How is it we can't have the Ten Commandments in Texas, but the Frisco ISD public school, Liberty High School, can have prayer rooms and nobody says anything?
Well, I mean, first of all, this is the double standard of the left, but let's take a step back. What you just said out loud, Frisco, Texas, Frisco. My daughter was born in Frisco, Texas, has now got Islamic prayer rooms. Okay, that should concern you. That should be troubling for everybody. And by you, I mean the listeners out there, like in Texas listeners. And yes, this Ten Commandment case, it's judicial activism. The Supreme Court has upheld the ability to have the Ten Commandments displayed in public forum. Again, there's the Ten Commandments sits on the grounds at the Texas Capitol, a case, like I said, that Ted Cruz litigated as Solicitor General, working for then Attorney General Greg Abbott, Governor Rick Perry, and we won that case. And I think we will be able to win that case when it goes up and is no doubt and is being challenged in the Fifth Circuit, and then likely if the Supreme Court were to look at it. But I think the Fifth Circuit will side with past precedents and say that we can have the Ten Commandments. But look, we've got to decide who we are as a people, and we've got to start acting like it because this nation has been blessed because we are a Judeo-Christian people who formed a country that is a liberal in the classical sense, republic, liberal democracy, and we allow the full range of views to be discussed and for people to believe whatever they believe. And you and I would die on the hill to protect that, to protect the tyranny of government over the mind of man. But we're also a group of peoples bound together by a common set of ideals in our history and our founding. And when you break that down, you will no longer have a country.
You were saying a minute ago, that should concern you that there are prayer rooms in Frisco, Texas. It doesn't concern me that there are prayer rooms. What concerns me is this is a coordinated effort to bring Sharia law into our country. I don't care if you're Muslim and you come here and you respect the Judeo-Christian laws that we have. That's what our country was built on. That's where our laws are based on. And you say, this is a really great system because it allows me and everybody else to worship God of our understanding. But when you are part of a movement to subvert that law and to fundamentally transform the United States into something that it is not, that's when I have a problem. And that's when we should stand up. But that's one of the things that CAIR does. CAIR makes anything that we have said Islamophobia. And so they shout you down and make you afraid and try to paint you as a hater. I don't hate Muslims. I don't. I do despise Sharia law. And I despise anyone who comes here and wants to supplant the United States Constitution and replace it with Sharia law. That's a no-go zone. No, sorry, not going to do it.
And the history of Sharia law and the history of those adherent to it would suggest that that is the goal, and that is what we've seen borne out in countries across the world. So we should recognize that in carrying out our policies. And these activist judges, they are going to cede the ground, okay? In the name of the First Amendment, they're going to cede the ground with a supposedly secular society in, essentially genuflecting to Bill of Rights while walking away from God. They're going to cede the ground for a world in which we are going to invite those who wish to destroy America to have a front row seat right here to do it. And we've got to stop those judges, and we've got to act. And so, go back to my point. The House of Representatives should act on such an obvious case like Boasberg. We should appeal immediately, and I know that my religious liberty friends will do that on the 10 Commandments, and they're going to be litigating that, and I'm quite confident that the state will litigate that to defend the state law and to defend those schools. But then when you go to the redistricting opinion, like, it's really extraordinary. I don't know if you read the scathing rebuke of the two judges, but particularly the one judge, Judge Brown, by Jerry Smith, right, who was the dissenting judge in the three-judge panel. So for those who don't understand, when you have a case on the redistricting issues, right, it goes to a three-judge panel. And this three-judge panel it was a 2-to-1 opinion, and it was a Democrat-appointed judge. It was a Trump-appointed judge, Judge Brown, and then Judge Jerry Smith, who's been on the bench for a long time, very respected conservative.
37 years.
Yes, and Jerry was basically cut out. They didn't do their normal deliberations. He wrote a scathing letter yesterday, in addition to then filing a dissent, because he was blocked out of the process. It was an extraordinary, essentially, power grab by the two judges just to ram this thing through. I don't think that the Supreme Court's going to take kindly to that. I think that this stay application that will be filed at the United States Supreme Court, I think by tomorrow, they filed the stay last night with the district court, but I think they will go to the Supreme Court with a stay probably tomorrow. That's obviously up for Attorney General Paxton and Governor Abbott for them to strategize on the timing, but I think that's right. And I think the court, Judge Roberts, for his faults on many opinions, has been pretty good on race. You'll remember the Supreme Court opinion that struck down the abhorrent, language in Section 5 that was unconstitutional of the Voting Rights Act, and they cleaned that up. And in that opinion, Roberts said this divvying us up by race is a sordid business. That was his quote. And I think Roberts will be on the right side of this. I hope so, because this is very clearly a political exercise by the legislature. The judges tried to indicate that it was racial gerrymandering, and no, it's the opposite. Texas is trying to undo racial gerrymandering, which we believe is unconstitutional on its face. And you've got California out there who is taking 5 of the 9 Republican seats away. So it's currently 45-9, and it's now going to be something like 50-4. My numbers may be off 1 or 2. It's crazy. And then in Texas, we were trying to kind of rebalance it a little bit and add 4 or 5 new seats, a lot of growth in Texas. And now they're going to say that that's somehow not possible because we're somehow doing racial gerrymandering. We're undoing, I think, racial gerrymandering with a politically motivated goal of having more Republican seats in a very Republican state. So I hope the Supreme Court sees this for what it is and issues a stay. But, we'll have to see what they do.
Let me take you to Washington again. This Comey thing is driving me out of my mind because, once again, here's somebody who looks like he's not going to pay a price for anything. James Comey, a judge, has said that the government has screwed this up in gathering information and filing, and so now it looks like the Comey case is not going to move forward. Any thoughts on this?
Well, look, I've not had a chance to dive into this as deeply. I know that the district judge, Nachmanoff or whatever the judge's name was, pressed, this opinion forward, and pressed not the opinion, pressed prosecutors on the hearing, and I don't know what the exact result's going to be. This is a Biden appointee, and we're going to see what the result is. Obviously, Comey, we believe, lied to, I think, the Senate Judiciary Committee, among others, under oath, and that is, in fact, an indictable offense. And so, I'll go look and see whatever they're claiming in terms of, whether the grand jury got to see the final indictment or whatever these issues are. Obviously, as a former prosecutor, the procedures are important. You got to follow the procedures to do it right, but you also can't lose the forest for the trees. I think Comey very clearly lied. And so we're going to, hopefully this will proceed. But that's about all I got on that one.
All right, Chip, thank you very much. If anybody wants to get involved in your campaign for Texas Attorney General, how do they do it?
ChipRoy.com, ChipRoy.com. You can follow me at ChipRoyTX on X/Twitter. And Glenn, always appreciate what you're doing out there. Thanks for being at the tip of the spear and the forefront of talking about this important issue about defending Western civilization and just all of the issues. I'm deeply appreciative.
I tell you, Chip, I've been saying it for a while since I wrote the chalkboard on what was going to happen, back in Fox days. And I said all these people are going to gather, and then they'll sort it out. Once they think they have it, they'll start eating each other. And you're starting to see that with the left now eating the Democrats. So Democrats are over, and now it's just going to be Marxist. But it'll come down to the Marxist and the anarchist and the Islamist. And as I said then, in the end, it'll just be the Islamists against the Western world, because I would bet on people who believe something much more than the Marxists. These people have religious zeal, and they will eat the Marxist, and then it'll just be Western world against the Islamists. And I think, Chip, we are in World War III. We just have not declared it yet, and people haven't woken up to it yet. But we're at the beginning stages. You'll see history in 100 years from now will write that this the 1930s, if you will. This is the beginning of a world war, and nobody has caught up with it yet. Would you agree with that,
Glenn? I agree with you. You have, and you were in front of it a long time ago. Others of us have caught up to it, and frankly, caught up to where you were. And look, it is one of the core reasons I'm running for Attorney General. Look, I mean, I could keep doing what I'm doing up here, and God's blessed me with the ability to fight and make changes up here, and we've done some good things. But look, we have got to preserve and save Texas, and the battle is exactly what you said. You can't win a war if you don't even acknowledge that it's happening. And that's the problem, is like people are asleep at it. And again, like I said, this is what Charlie and I last talked about, because of the reality of what you just said. And that vast network, we have got to follow the money and destroy that network. It is an integrated, related network. You know it. I know it. I can promise you, smart people in Washington are looking at this. I can tell you that I'm building teams in Texas to look at this right now and connecting those teams in Texas and Washington and other AG's offices, which is what I'll do on day one as AG. Frankly, once I'm blessed with the nomination, I'll be working on it all next year. We're going to build the team, and we're going to go fight and dismantle it.